My best friend ditched our trip for her boyfriend, blocked me everywhere, and now I'm wondering if I was just her emotional support human. I had this close female friend who did the classic fade as soon as a new guy came on the scene. You know the routine. You go from call every other day and come over I made too much pasta to 3-word text and a calendar that apparently only has 2 slots left, his and work. I try to play it cool. I told myself adult friendships stretch and shrink and that it wasn't personal. I stopped expecting the late-night debriefs, stopped waiting for her to send a "you up?" after some more thing blew up, stopped assuming we'd do our weird Saturday grocery run, where we judged everyone's carts like heathens. I managed my expectations like a grown-up. I kept telling myself that when people get into relationships, the deck gets reshuffled, and you can't be mad at gravity. Then she bailed on the trip we'd been daydreaming about for months. We'd said spring. We'd found cheap flights. I even built a dumb spreadsheet with links to places and color-coded tabs, because I'm that person. She sent this soft excuse over text, something like, "I just don't have the energy for all the planning." I swallowed it. I said, "No worries, we can push it." I suggested a shorter weekend thing, fewer moving parts, less logistics. She ghosted the suggestion for a week and then dropped a photo later. Her and her partner at a beach, all filtered sunset and feet in the water. The caption was cheesy. You could probably hear my stomach drop from space. I didn't say anything then because I wasn't sure how to say, "Hey, this hurts," without sounding like I was auditioning for the jealous friend role in some CW show. I rationed my disappointment. I told myself again that people change their orbit when they start coupling up. She did a half apology later. "I know I've been flaking, my social battery is trash lately, and booking with him is easier and cheaper." And I nod along like she could see me through the phone. She tossed in that she was helping him with a custody fight with his ex, which is heavy, so I let my irritation climb back in its crate. I said I understood. I did understand. I just didn't like the math of it, how the bucket seemed to refill only for him. We hadn't actually hung out since summer. Then 2 weeks ago, she pinged me out of nowhere. "We should hang." I said yes right away. We tossed dates back and forth and circled a Saturday. We started a little text catch-up. I asked about work. She sent a voice note about her manager mixing up 2 deliverables and how she had to pull an all-nighter. Classic her. Funny, pissed, sharp. It felt familiar. Sarcasm, then a cackle, then a long sigh like she just took her bra off mentally. I told her I missed that sound. She sent a heart. Then her replies turned into crumbs. 1-word answers. She drifted between hours. I poked midweek. "We still on for Saturday?" She said maybe that family stuff landed in her lap. I left it. Friday night, she messaged that she was drained from the week and likely going to have to cancel. I stared at the message. There's, "I'm wiped, can we reschedule?" And then there's the song she's been playing for 2 years. My patience snapped like a rubber band. I told her to leave it. I wrote, "It's cool, just leave it. You clearly don't have the capacity for the friendship." I wasn't screaming. I typed it calm. I said I've been a consistent, reliable friend for years, and it sucks to feel like I'm some task on a to-do list with maybe next to it every time. I mentioned the holiday plans again, the way she noped out for lack of energy, and then had evidently plenty of energy for multiple trips with her partner. I said maybe that should have been my line in the sand. That last sentence probably stabbed more than it needed to, but I was tired of swallowing my own tongue. She didn't respond. That silence spread all over the room. I slept badly. I woke up, checked WhatsApp, gone. Blocked. Checked IG, gone. Facebook, gone. I laughed like an actual short bark. It was so on the nose it felt like a punchline. And weirdly, I didn't launch into the usual post-mortem where I assign myself 80% of the blame. I've spent years assuming I'm the common denominator in friendship failures. But I've watched other people bleed out in the same way these last couple of years. Everyone's battery is allegedly dying. Everything is a lot. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying the trend has a pattern. The thing I keep coming back to is the fit of the friendship we had. We met in the most boring way, co-workers, but we slid sideways fast into something real. She knew the worst facts about me before the second spring we knew each other. That I had this habit of getting up in my own head and burning bridges preemptively, that I could be petty, that I collect receipts, literal and metaphorical, that my dad's silence could turn a whole room cold in 5 minutes, and that sometimes I matched it because I didn't know how to be the opposite. She didn't run. She mocked me gently. She said, "You're dramatic, but you're not wrong." I watched her fall apart after a layoff once, and I held her in my shitty kitchen while she sobbed in my hoodie like a teenager. It wasn't lopsided. We had an economy. We paid attention when the other one needed something. She'd text me to come over when her health anxiety spiked. I'd drag her outside when she got weird about food. We weren't saints. We just kept showing up, and that counts for a lot. Then he arrived. The speed of it was the kicker. One week, he was an anecdote, a hinge data guy with loud shirts. And then suddenly, he was a fixture almost as if he'd already been there, and I was reading a backfilled timeline. She sent photos of him doing ordinary things, cooking, poking a plant, sleeping on the couch, like evidence. I remember the first time I met him in person. We were at some overpriced burger place where the fries come in a metal cone, like anyone asked for their potatoes to cosplay. He was polite, sure, but there was a stiffness to him, a calculated charm that registered as a performance. He could talk and talk, sports custody logistics, a therapy speak fluency that felt like he learned it in a 12-week boot camp. He told me about his kid, and you can't fake the way someone's face changes when they say their kid's name. He softened on that word. I clocked it. I still didn't love the way he shifted the spotlight to the custody dispute, like he needed the story to do work for him, preemptively justify his gravity. I thought, okay, some people talk like that because they're used to defending themselves. I wasn't allergic. I just noticed it. The first big conflict didn't land in a dramatic way. It dribbled. Little plans dissolved. A hang got pushed to next week, and then 2 more. She punted the concert we were hyped about. It became a caption I scrolled past later, her and him with wristbands. She apologized for missing my birthday dinner, blamed a fever, and then posted a boomerang from some rooftop the next night with a mezcal margarita doing gymnastics in an empty glass. I didn't confront her then either. I kept being understanding. You can only say it's fine so many times before the words turn to paste in your mouth. That trip plan was supposed to be our reset. The spreadsheet was ridiculous. Tabs labeled food, sites, transport, with columns for price, distance, whether the place had decent bathrooms, because I'm an old soul like that. She's the one who told me to make it actually. She's the one who likes structure even more than me. In the end, she just abandoned the plan and took the opposite of what she said she had no energy for. She flew to another country a month later, smiling, in every photo with him captioned with these syrups about how easy everything felt when you're with your person. I saw the photos and got petty for a second and zoomed all the way in to see if she was wearing the necklace I bought her last year. She was, and somehow that hurt more. The apology that followed, about social batteries and how it's cheaper to split airums with a partner and how her weekends are taken up by kid stuff, wasn't wrong factually. It just operated like a blanket thrown over a stain. Her messages about the custody mess were complicated enough that I didn't feel entirely right dragging the friendship ledger into it. The ex allegedly weaponized pickup times and complained to the court about minor shit like him being 7 minutes late. There were lawyers. There were receipts. There was an email that read like someone stitched together a dozen Pinterest quotes about boundaries and then used them to call him irresponsible. I know better than to stake my opinion on one side of a divorce war. But I saw how she folded herself around his catastrophes. How every spare hour became a thing for the case. I could picture her scanning PDFs at midnight with that tight line between her eyebrows she gets when she's trying to solve something impossible. I've watched that woman wring order out of chaos, so it made sense he'd cling. I just wish she'd leave a corner of herself for what we had. When she texted to hang out, I actually thought maybe she finally saw it. Maybe she felt the slack in the rope too and wanted to tie the knot. The week leading up to it, I kept my weekend empty like a dork. I didn't admit that to anyone because I'd have to explain why the possibility of seeing her again made me feel 11 years old. We had this dress code as a joke. Both were something aggressively comfortable, bring something we want to make the other one taste, and one piece of gossip we only tell each other. Stupid rituals glue you to people. I wanted that glue again. Her family stuff came up, text felt like the test beep of a fire alarm. Not the real thing, just a preview that there's a fire coming. I said no problem, and I meant it then because if my mother calls with her back pain or my cousin starts spiraling, I drop shit too. But then Friday, she pushed the sheet off the bed with her "I'm drained" message, and that was it. I didn't want to bargain anymore. I didn't want to send a polite, "totally get it," and watch her show up smiling on his story at a street fair the next day with a caption about self-care with my love. The text I sent wasn't a scream, but it was sharp. I said I didn't want to continue a friendship where I felt like I'm penciled in and then erased every time something else popped. I said I've been steady for years, and I'm tired of feeling like that steadiness is invisible unless she needs it. I brought up the holiday flake and the subsequent holiday ing. I hit send and stare at my phone the way you stare at a stove after you switch it off. You know it's still hot even if it looks like nothing. I put the phone down. I made eggs and ate them standing up because that's a thing I do when I'm trying to pretend I'm fine. I checked the phone again and there was nothing. I slept finally and woke to the block parade. The silence wasn't neutral this time. It was a choice. There's this itch to catalog every instance where I kept showing up so I can prove to myself I'm not the villain. It's gross, but I'm going to do it once right here and then stop. There was the time she pinged me at 1 a.m. shaking because she'd convinced herself she had a blood clot. I got on a lift in pajama pants and sat with her in urgent care until dawn while a doctor explained calf pain and anxiety and dehydration. There was the time I helped her move because her moving crew promised to help and then no-showed. I lifted a couch with the strength of a man twice my size because rage reduces friction. There was the morning after she found out her ex had cheated on her. I did her dishes and walked her dog and listened to her not cry, which is somehow worse than crying. I didn't keep a spreadsheet for those things. I just did them and forgot because that's what you do when you care. I don't think I ever asked for repayment. Maybe that's a lie. Maybe I asked for exactly what I'm whining about now. For the person to pick me as often as I pick them for the person to keep me in the front of the drawer, not in the junk one with the dead batteries and receipts for things you can't return anymore. I keep replaying one conversation we had early in her relationship, one that probably set the trajectory without me realizing it. We were walking back from dinner, and she said, "I think I need to be gentler with myself. I can't pour from an empty cup." I laughed and said, "You're a cup with a hole anyway." She shoved me, and we made some dumb joke about being human colanders. But she meant it the gentler thing, and I agreed with the concept. It's just that somewhere along the way, gentler with myself started to mean everyone else gets cut. Not intentionally, not with malice. Just because it's easier to cancel on a friend than it is to cancel on a court date or a boyfriend who lives in your apartment 4 nights a week. It's easier to ask for the kind of attention that has a title. Girlfriend comes with obligations other people respect automatically. Friend feels opt-in, negotiable, cancelable. And that sucks because sometimes your friends are the only ones telling you the truth. We did have one final phone call before the block, just not about the block. It was a week before when she asked me whether she was being selfish for saying she didn't want her boyfriend's ex to text her directly anymore. She laid out the drama. The ex had begun bypassing him and messaging her about schedules, sniping passive-aggressively like, "Since you're in charge of everything anyway." It made my friend crazy. I told her to draw a line. She asked what wording I'd use. We wrote a sentence together, something like, "For logistics, please message him directly. I'm not a party to this." She sent it. The ex responded with a screenshot she'd annotated like a teacher grading a paper, circling phrases and writing, "This is controlling," and "interesting boundary." It was nasty. My friend showed me and waited for me to take her side, which I did because that's the side I stood on. But even while defending her, there was a pebble in my shoe. My friend loves to be in charge. It calms her. If you're with someone who's messy or drowning, you become their life raft, and then their lifeguard, and then their emergency phone number. All of a sudden, you're the point person for all of it. Even when she's exhausted, she reaches for the list because doing everything is the only way she believes it'll get done. And then she tells me she's empty. I know that pattern. I invented my own version of it. Maybe that's why we found each other. Maybe that's why this hurts so much. It's like watching my worst impulse win. The nicest version of what happened is simple. She scaled her life to fit an extra person and a child and a legal system that dragged its feet. She tried to keep everything, but the bag ripped. She made a choice about where to place what she could carry, and I got put on the curb. The meanest version is this. I became boring to her. I became work. I stopped being the person who saw her first. I stopped being the project. She wanted to fix the puzzle. She wanted to solve the idiot she wanted to order dumplings with while clowning on strangers' outfits. He gave her novelty and a role and a kid to pour her strength into. He needed her in a way I didn't. And I didn't insist on being needed because insisting on that feels gross. When someone blocks you like that, they're not just closing a door, they're bolting it and throwing away the key in front of you. The block tells you, I want you to be unable to speak. It saves them the discomfort of reading your name. It rewrites the narrative instantly. Now you're the person they had to protect themselves from. I found myself wanting to send an email or a letter like some deranged Victorian just so I could put the last word somewhere in the world. I didn't. You can't claw your way back from a block without looking like a clown. You just sit in it and feel every piece of the friendship standing up and walking out of your head. I keep thinking about this bar we went to once. The bartender had those tattooed fingers that look like your cool art teacher's ex. We ordered 2 bourbons and a plate of something fried. She told me she hated me a little that week because I'd taken a job she wanted. She said she was proud of me too. She was crying while she said it's snot and eyeliner teaming up to ruin her whole face. We laughed about it at the time because only a real friend says both out loud, jealousy and pride. That night we walked home in the rain without umbrellas because we're both idiots who think weather is a suggestion. She said I felt like home. I said she was the only person who knows what to order for me when I'm spiraling. We promised something vague like, let's not do the thing where we fade and then try to fix it too late. We did exactly that thing step by dumb step like we found an instruction manual labeled, ruin this gently. There's a part of me that wants to be cruel and catalog all her hypocrisies so I can balance the scales. Her rant about other flaky friends who vanished when they got married. Her whole speech last year about how she refuses to be the kind of person who uses love as an excuse to stop being a person. The way she judged a mutual friend for getting boring after his kid, then sent me photos of bedtime with her partner's kid like she discovered nobility. But that same part of me knows someone absolutely could do the same to me. They could list where I didn't show up. They could recall a text I didn't answer because I was depressed. They could mention the time I told someone I'd go to their mom's memorial and then panicked and sent flowers instead. No one's ledger is clean. A friendship ends and you start doing accounting with bad numbers. It's pointless. It doesn't make your heart less stupid. It's strange to admit how much I counted on our friendship as a piece of scaffolding for my life. Not because she propped me up entirely, but because she was this dependable rung I could step on when the rest of the frame wobbled. In the last few months, a handful of small things piled up. A job project fell apart, my landlord raised rent, and then shrugged at mole my aunt, got sick, my sleep turned into a mess. Normal adult turbulence, nothing extraordinary. But the way we used to handle turbulence was by taking walks at weird hours, or by cooking a stupid meal together, or by sitting on her floor, trying to teach her dog how to shake in exchange for treats he didn't need. Those rituals aren't grand, but they keep the windshield from fogging. I wanted that weekend. Not because I needed to unload for hours, I don't do dump sessions like that, but because I needed to not be alone for a few hours. And I needed the one person who gets my shorthand, who knows what I mean when I say, it's a shade 5-day to see me. That's what stung most when she canceled with the drain line. It told me that when she looks at the week and asks what she has energy for our thing is the first thing she sacrifices. Not every time, just enough times to draw a line through the pattern. I did a stupid thing after the block and scrolled back through old photos like a creep. I found the one where we tried to make macarons and somehow invented a new food group called Failure Coin. We ate them anyway. I found the video of us at the cheap karaoke place screaming our lungs out to a song we both pretend to hate. I listened to her laugh on loop like a psycho. It hurt in that rich way that feels weirdly satisfying for 5 seconds and then shifts into nausea. I closed the app and stared at the ceiling, trying to call up resentment to push the sadness out. Resentment came limping. Sadness leaned back in its chair like, you done? I want to blame technology or the pandemic or work culture or whatever word you toss around to explain how everyone forgot how to sustain anything that doesn't have a calendar invite attached. People keep saying their social batteries are dead, which is real for some and a shield for others. I'm not the gatekeeper for how people spend their energy. I just know that words like capacity and boundaries get used sometimes like exit signs. Useful concepts turned into get out of responsibility free cards. I respect actual limits. I hate polite scripts that make desertion sound like self-care. There's a difference between I can't do this right now and I never want to do this again, but I don't want to be the asshole who says it. If she had said at any point, this season of my life doesn't have room for us, I would have screamed into a pillow and then adjusted. I might have even stayed on the bench warm-up jacket on waiting for a minute to run back in. But the indefinite maybe drove me insane. The hands hovering over a keyboard typing, "we should," and never finishing the sentence. There's a fantasy version where she messages in 6 months with something soft and adult. "Hey, I read your text the wrong way and reacted defensively. I'm sorry." The fantasy version has me being generous in return. We meet. We talk. We name the things that got bent and the things that broke. We don't go back to how it was because you never do, but we build something smaller and okay. That's the fantasy because I don't actually think it'll happen. People keep the stories that make it easiest to sleep. I'm probably the unreasonable friend who threw old vacations in her face. She's probably the overwhelmed woman who had a triage and chose a relationship because people always tell you to choose your relationship. There isn't a court to arbitrate this. If I'm being ugly honest, the block cut me with this specific hidden blade. It told me I'm replaceable. There's another person now who hears the daily download, who knows the jokes in real time, who buys the stupid snacks I like without asking, who knows the difference between my I'm fine and my I'm fine. It is what it is. That's the contract of life. If you stop showing up, someone else will. I didn't stop showing. I just stopped being first. Maybe that's the same thing. I'm not going to send her a letter. I'm not going to DM from a burner like a gremlin. I'm going to do the adult thing, where you let the block do its job. I'll put the photos in an archive. I'll stop rehearsing speeches in the shower. I'll let some air get into the wound and trust that time won't heal it. Time will just make it part of the landscape. You learn to walk around the hole in the sidewalk. You stop tripping over it every day. You still know it's there. When someone else says, "My friend disappeared into her boyfriend," I'll nod with that specific tight-lipped nod of recognition, and I'll say, "Yeah, that one hurts." And look, I know I'm not the hero in this story. I'm also not the villain. I'm the guy who wrote a spreadsheet for a vacation and then watched it turn into a photo of 2 people on a beach without me. I'm the friend who got tired of being rescheduled. I'm the person who wanted to be chosen sometimes and didn't know how to ask nicely for that without sounding like a child. Maybe the moral is stupid and mundane. Relationships reorder your life, even the relationships you're not in. People triage. You can't force them to put you at the top of their list. You can only decide where to put them on yours. I thought I was being gracious for 2 years. Maybe graciousness just hid resentment until it was time to wield it like a bat. I swung, she ducked, and then she locked the door. So I'm sitting here with my coffee going cold and my phone clean of her name, writing this to strangers because narrating something on the internet is the only way I know to put it down somewhere outside my own skull. I'm not fishing for advice. I know the advice. I can hear all the voices already. Friends ebb and flow. You should have said something earlier. You dodged a bullet. She owes you nothing. You're allowed to want more. Let it go. The conflicting chorus of things we tell each other because it feels better to diagnose than to say, "Damn, that sucks." It does suck. It'll suck less. I'll meet new people. I'll probably do a version of this to someone else without meaning to. That part bothers me. I hope I won't. I plan to be annoying and deliberate about picking my people and picking them loud. If I ever start saying, "my battery is low," as a default excuse to every plan with the same person, I hope I catch myself and decide to either juice the damn battery or say the adult thing. I can't keep this up, and that's on me, not you. For now, I'm going to go clean the stupid spreadsheet off my desktop. I'm going to text another friend to grab tacos. I'm going to stop replaying the last time she laughed at something I said, because that's a trap. I'm going to remember that just because someone found a new home doesn't mean they burned yours down. It's still there. It's just quieter. And weirdly enough, I'm not spiraling. I'm not crawling around the floor looking for a shard of a thing that's already been swept. I'm sitting in the mess and breathing. Usually I'd be beating myself up as I have had difficulty in maintaining friendships or relationships in the past, so automatically assume I'm the problem. But I know a lot of people are having similar struggles, so think it's a sign of the times. My opinion, not asshole here. Even if your text was, "blunt friendships are two-way streets," and you've been signaling for ages that the lane was closing. She hasn't figured out how to balance competing pulls. Partner-family drama works, so "I'm drained" becomes a catch-all exit ramp whenever plans require effort. That's not a boundary. That's triage that always seems to cut you first. The hard truth is she chose a simpler life where her partner's needs take priority and your friendship became the flexible thing to cancel. If or when that relationship ends, she may look back and realize she let a steady friend go because convenience felt easier than honesty. But that's her lesson, not your burden. You set a fair limit, spoke plainly, and bowed out with dignity. You didn't do anything wrong. Good luck, Opie. So guys, what do you think of this story?